Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real, where we introduce corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and participate with their great idea in our guest blog found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Kitchener, Ontario. Danielle Joworski is a business owner who's jumped in and out of entrepreneurship with a new mission: be visible. Let's find out why this corporate leader became a business coach and TV host, working with women 40 plus to elevate their presence and create the impact, influence, and income they imagine. It is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Danielle Joworski.
Thank you so much, Trish, for having me today. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too. And when I read your guest blog, you mentioned that you jumped in and out of corporate life and entrepreneurship. What was the defining moment for you in starting your own business?
Well, really, the defining moment of stepping out of corporate the first time was literally my 40th birthday. On that birthday, it was
how cool is that?
I know. So I am the urban myth. So things can happen on that 40th birthday. But for me, I don't call it a midlife, like over the hill kind of thing. I found it was my midlife awakening. And just realizing that this path that I had been on in corporate, I didn't have the words for it at the time to explain what was happening. I now know what was going on. It was just this shift within me, and then becoming misaligned to this path that I thought I really wanted to be on in corporate. Literally on my 40th birthday, the decision was, I looked at my husband, I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that was the defining moment to step out of corporate.
Right.
And then it was, well, I have to do something. Mm-hmm. I looked at all my friends who were happy with what they were doing. They all happened to be entrepreneurs. The internet, especially back then, made the laptop lifestyle seem so easy. So I thought, how hard can it be? And then that was the decision to become an entrepreneur.
So you mentioned that you went in and out of entrepreneurship, and one of the barriers to your success was visibility. Give us a little bit of the behind the scenes as to how was the visibility a barrier? Because you've mentioned that the laptop lifestyle was sort of a very, it was a wonderful way to sort of get in front of clients. But I don't know about you, but I certainly found the laptop lifestyle was convenient in certain ways, but not in others.
Absolutely. So for me, the laptop lifestyle and just putting yourself out there as a business owner, that everything about business was new. I have a microbiology degree, no background in business. I've been in corporate, quality, manufacturing, compliance, so very structured in processes. Being a business owner means that you're the CEO of everything at the beginning, and you're learning. For me, what really stood out was I failed to be visible in business that first time. It was very challenging for me to put myself out there, to get comfortable shining that spotlight on me. And I had a paralyzing fear of the camera. So I would spend hours recording video on my phone only to delete them. They would never see the light of a social media post, or I would even post a video and then do this. Secretly hope that nobody saw it. Because I had this image of, I didn't look like someone who did video. I didn't sound like someone who did video. And so for me, being visible as a business owner, when I failed at that, it means that you can't be seen and heard, which means you can't be found and hired. So I really, really struggled to be visible in business the first time. And then I had to make the decision that this wasn't working. Something was going on. I had a lot of fears, doubts, and worries. So I made the decision to return to corporate and just give myself the space to really truly understand what was happening, why couldn't I put myself out there, and then just to also give myself that bit of routine and that consistent income again, so I didn't have to always worry about forcing myself to show up in places because I have to pay the bills. It was a really yucky feeling. So going to corporate it gave me the time, the space, and then the income to really sit back, reflect, and say, okay, what's going on? And then became the catalyst to moving forward.
When you went back to corporate, how did you then obviously transition back into entrepreneurship? Because that's a feat in itself. Taking the realization that it's not working and giving yourself the grace to say, okay, I'm just going to wrap this up and I'm going to put it away on the shelf for a little while. I'm going to go back to corporate, regain my confidence, maybe put a little bit more money in the bank, and then relaunch your business. What was the mental, struggle that you would have had with then feeling a level of confidence to come back into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it was so stepping into entrepreneurship the second time was very different than the first. When I returned to corporate after being an entrepreneur for about 2.5 years, there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of guilt. I spent
Yes.
all this money. I wasn't able to create the income that the internet told me was going to be so easy
So
to
easy.
do.
Yeah.
And just around my family, they supported me for 2.5 years while I figured this out and I tried something very risky. There's a lot. So again, when I returned to corporate, not a whole lot of confidence. That was a catalyst though, because I got back in this environment where I was able to then see that I had changed in certain ways. I thought differently. I was really out of the box thinking. And that's where the idea for the TV show that I created, pitched, and then produced and hosted on Rogers TV, that's where that came from. Because I wanted to connect the career and business challenges that women were having to the solutions and the support that women entrepreneurs were able to provide. And I wanted to ensure, like, this platform, I was really called to do it and get over my fear of the camera, because I didn't want other entrepreneurs to suffer the same fate as me,
Right.
where they did not have the ability to put themselves out there. They weren't feeling safe to put themselves out there to be seen because of their own fears. I wanted to create a platform and a space where other people felt safe showing up and knowing that somebody had their back to help them showcase who they are, their expertise, and ultimately to grow their business. So I hope, go ahead.
I absolutely love. So there's two things I want to touch on. One is, and I read one of your social posts recently, so I know the answer to the question, but how did you actually overcome your fear of the camera? Because that's a huge, I mean, I had to do the same thing. I did mine in a little different way, but I love how you did it. In terms of, we have a very similar mandate, increasing the visibility of entrepreneurs so that it helps with their credibility. They have access to being seen, heard, and then hired.
Yes.
But how did you overcome the obstacle of the camera? Because that's a huge one for a lot of us.
Huge. And for me, and even behind the scenes talk of this is in my 30s, I really didn't like the way that I looked. I threw out most of the pictures that I actually had of myself because I didn't think I was pretty enough. And I just did not have a lot of confidence in who I was and a lot of self-esteem either. It was really missing. So for me, that camera was a huge barrier.
Sure.
Overcoming it, though, I did two things. One was I focused on the external piece of it, so the skill set. So I worked with an acting coach to understand how to connect with a camera, how to connect with an audience through a lens, and also be able to connect with my guest who is sitting right in front of me and be really comfortable doing that. So that as I'm more comfortable, it translates into helping them to be comfortable. The second thing I did was the mindset work, so the internal work. Right. Really working on how did I see myself? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to feel? And then ultimately, how do I want to create the impact that I really feel called to create through this platform and through what I was doing? So those are the two things that allowed me to get over the fear of the camera. And when I got there, on the other side of fear was the biggest feeling of fulfillment and alive that I've ever felt in my life. And I took that and then I made the decision. The show is the catalyst for me, then deciding to step out of corporate the second time. And then that's where we are today.
And I love the be visible piece because it sounds so easy. And to your point, there's so much that happens behind the scenes, right?
Yes.
Now, you've mentioned that I love the two things that you did, the acting coach and helping, to build your confidence, and then dealing with the external, the pictures of yourself and being more comfortable with who Danielle is in front of the camera.
Yes.
I'm sure the acting coach gave you lots of technical things to do because both of us are process driven, right? When we're in corporate, that's one of the reasons why I think, jump from corporate into entrepreneurship is corporate sometimes can become so process driven that it stifles our creativity. So we look for an outlet to be more creative. So I'm sure the acting coach gave you lots of bits and pieces for that. But how did you get over hey, listen, we're similar in age, we're similar in experience. And being in front and behind the camera is huge, especially when, to your point, we see things on social. Everyone looks like they're having a grand time. Everyone's making all kinds of money. Everything looks so easy. And you're sitting there going, how come this isn't working for me? How come the dots are not connecting? Is there something that you can share with our viewing and listening audience? Because we all need a few tips on confidence. What did you do to help with that confidence piece and being comfortable with how you look? As an example, when I'm interviewing, I never look at myself on the screen. Yeah. I only look at the guest, because if I look at myself, I'm going to be so freaked out thinking, oh my God, my hair's out of place. My lipstick isn't right. The background isn't great. You know, the collar on my shirt is wrinkled. So I don't even concentrate on me. I just concentrate on you. Do you do a similar thing when you're behind the camera?
Yes, I feel like we're like two ships going parallel, because that's really what really helped me get over the fear of being on camera, because I flipped the mirror around and it wasn't about me.
Right.
Because I was creating this platform to help others so that they weren't suffering, so that they were achieving their goals. So when I flipped that around, it didn't become about me. Sure, I worried about my hair, and my hairstylist was great when I first started the show. She was there and she did hair, and I learned how to do my makeup, all those technical things. But in here, it was really heart driven, where it wasn't about me. And as soon as I made that shift, that it's not about me, it's about helping others, not experiencing what I did, the belief in the ability for me to create the impact that I could see up here, I could see in my head, I could feel it in my heart. My belief in that was enough to get over the fear of putting myself out there and of the camera, that I was able to take that courageous action to pitch, first of all, and then support my pitch, and then say, okay, yep, I'm going to host, and then take all those other steps. And it was from those steps that the confidence came. So confidence for me is an outcome of taking courageous actions that are fueled by the belief in your ability to do something, to be something, or to create something.
And that's a really wonderful thing to share with our viewing and listening audience, because I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed guests and everybody thinks you're an overnight sensation. And the general comment is, well, oh yes, it's taken me 20 years to be an overnight sensation, or it's taken me 5, or it's taken me 3, or however many years that you've been an entrepreneur. It just doesn't happen overnight. We have to give ourselves the grace and the time to be successful. It's no different than our corporate life, right? I mean, generally speaking, when we start our careers, we come out of school and we get our first job. You're not the CEO, generally. Not generally. I mean, I guess some people might be, but the general path is not, you get the CEO's role right off the bat. But we forget that as an entrepreneur, because as you say, you're the CEO of everything.
Yes.
Now, as an entrepreneur, and you've been at it now, you've made some changes in your own process and your business model. Is there something that you can say to those who may be getting ready to start the journey? This is what, if you give yourself grace here, in addition to time, you're bound to be successful.
Yes. Oh, that's a great question. And I would have to say, at the end of the day, we have a lot of women and female entrepreneurs I work with, there's a lot of fears about showing up on camera. What do I say? And the fear of missing out, and the fear of being canceled. And it becomes, there's also the fear of, well, nobody needs to hear what I have to say. Who am I? So for me, it's that belief that somebody needs to hear your message. They may not hear it or need to hear it today. It may not be tomorrow, but I fully believe that the experience that you have when you're willing to share it in a message, and it's coming from this place from within, a really good place, really good intention, whoever needs to hear your message is going to hear it, and they're going to connect with it. Not everyone needs to, and that's okay, because not everyone is your ideal client, is your ideal customer, is your ideal audience.
Right.
But just starting small, those small little steps together combined create your big leaps.
Right.
But just understand that your message does need to be heard by somebody, because you have a perspective that nobody else is sharing.
Now, you mentioned ideal client, and you've already identified that your ideal client is 40 plus females who are entrepreneurs. Is there a particular industry? Is there a particular style of business model that you find is easier to help them elevate their visibility? Or is it a general anyone, anywhere, as long as you're over 40 and an entrepreneur?
It can be very general. So I've worked with men, for example, but for me, it's about the fit.
Right.
And the fit in personality, the fit in their mission, and especially their fit in their values. But the industries I really feel called to help the most and I connect with the most are like coaches, consultants, and wellness practitioners. That's for me, that has been transformational for my own life. So being able to really support those types of businesses, I feel that's my way of giving back.
I love the symbiotic relationship that you mentioned, because often when we're coaching, you're sharing information. It's not just top down, right? It can also be bottom up. So I love the way that you've mentioned that those relationships are symbiotic and that you're helping them and they help you just as much. So that's a really wonderful place to be. One of the things that we do in our guest blog is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice. Your words are believe, courage, and gratitude. So if you could wrap up our conversation today, sharing with us why those 3 words are important to you.
So the belief and the courage, that goes back to that little formula I talked about before, where the belief plus the courage equals the growth and the confidence. I didn't use confidence though as part of my 3 words. I changed the last one to gratitude, because for me, being grateful for what was, what has been, the good, the bad, and the ugly, has really been what has transformed my ability to let go of the coulda, woulda, shouldas in the past, be grateful for what has been, be grateful for the present, and then just be able to catapult from there and really launch from there.
I would like to thank you and in demonstration of gratitude, because I really do believe, like you, that gratitude is the piece that sometimes we miss. And I really appreciate the fact that that's one of the things that you feel will help business owners, is being thankful, not only for what we have, but for what we're trying to achieve. And I think that's a really wonderful way for us to wrap up our conversation today, is just by being grateful and giving ourselves the grace to pursue the dreams that we have. And I love the fact that you're helping people break the barriers to success. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Trish. Thank you for this opportunity.
To our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find Danielle's contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.